You are now watching M.O.D. Entertainment. Make sure you subscribe and check out the playlist.
I grew up hearing gunshots in the late night. Ghetto bird, police sirens as a mother cries. Just another victim of the Soundbrown genocide. Locals posted, locked and loaded, ready to take lives. And when they heard the chieflet, they would duck up out of sight. Like your car when the sun down, it was mission time. You had to stay alert, cause bullets always travel blind. We stayed posted, we stayed drinking, and we getting high. Marchando down the enemy's neighborhood as we ride. Put the hood, put the glica sample, fuck their side. No regrets, but the truth is no peace of mind.
G-File.
Now, starting off right here with one of the other oldest neighborhoods right here out of the Lynwood area. It is the Barrio Lynwood Young Crowd. Now, Lynwood Young Crowd, this is the original home, the original birthplace of the Young Crowd neighborhood. This neighborhood has already been right here since the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, is what I was told. The Barrio Young Crowd, you can find them in several locations within Los Angeles County, like in San Pedro, and in a few other spots, you know what I mean? But this is the birthplace where they originally came from. Now their territory is what's I would say is from like what's Beechwood all the way to Fernwood. So everything that's in the middle of Beechwood and Fernwood, I would consider that the Young Crowd's territory, which is a pretty large chunk of territory. But then again, the Young Crowd neighborhood is one of the largest neighborhoods out of the Lynwood area. You feel me? It's actually one of the neighborhoods that you do think about when you think about the Lynwood area. You know what I mean? These guys definitely have their riders, their representatives, and their homies that be doing their thing. You know what I mean? This neighborhood ain't no joke. They with the business, homie. They get it on and cracking. You feel me? I know a few cats out of the Young Crowd area. You feel me? Now, this is a neighborhood that does give like law enforcement a hard time. You know what I mean? They made the news a few times. They give law enforcement a hard time. With all these sweeps that they be doing on them. You already know the word. Gun sales, arms sales, drug sales, racketeering, all the whole works, the whole shebang. And going at it definitely with all the neighborhoods over here, because they do tend to have a lot of enemies. And like I said, this area does be cracking, homie. It's gang packed, full of different neighborhoods. Not only Hispanics, but like African American neighborhoods, and shit be cracking over here, homie. But these vatos definitely get it. They get it active. Shout out to Listo. Shout out to Bam Bam. Shout out to all the homies that be right there representing the Young Crowd neighborhood right there, putting it on the map. Another neighborhood you have right here is the Lynwood Travisos, the LVTVS neighborhood. Lynwood Traviesos is a neighborhood that has already been right here since the 80s. Now the Lynwood Traviesos roughly has always been a small neighborhood. They have never been like a large neighborhood. But even though they're few in numbers, you definitely hear about them. You know what I mean? They do get it popping. You know what I mean? Even though, because I was told that they're roughly about about 100 members or less than that, a little bit less than that. So it was always a small neighborhood. You know what I mean? And it seems like they've been pretty cool with the Tiny Lokes, because I seen them hit up together a few times. You know what I mean? Now the Lynwood Traviesos, their neighborhood is located right there by Los Flores Boulevard. So by Oakwood, Poplar Drive. What's that area? You feel me? It's a small chunk of territory, but nonetheless, homie, they be right there representing, still holding it down to this day. They still be active. You know what I'm saying? You still see the activity by these guys. You know what I mean? The graffiti and all that. You feel me? So the Lynwood Traviesos do still be right there representing it and holding it down for theirs and putting their barrio up on the map. You feel me? And but yeah, that's what's up with the Lynwood Traviesos gang right there, homie, holding it down for their side. And right here we have one of the most active ones out of the Lynwood area, which is the Lynwood Tiny Locals gang. Now the Lynwood Tiny Locals gang is one of the largest ones out of the Lynwood area. You feel me? This neighborhood definitely has its numbers, and they definitely be with the activity, homie, because you see the graffiti everywhere, homie. And you definitely hear about these guys, you know. They be making noise right here in the city of Lynwood, homie, you know. So they be getting it on and cracking, homie. The Tiny Locos gang, you can find them south of Abbott Road. So what's from St. Louis Avenue all the way to like San Vicente Avenue. You know, like everything in the middle, you know, San Miguel, all that, you know, which is a pretty, you know, large chunk of territory. You know what I'm saying? That's what's considered the Tiny Locals neighborhood, you know. And, you know, it seems like they have a lot of enemies, you know. It seems like a lot of people don't like these guys, and but they do have the numbers to combat it, you feel me? So they definitely, they keep it active, homie, you know what I'm saying? There's one neighborhood that you know, that does get it on and popping, and it seems like they do have like one ally. It seems like them and the mob seem to be pretty cool. You do from time to time see the graffitis written together, you know what I mean? But other than that, it seems like, you know, just they be going at it with everybody else, you know, especially with the Compton neighborhoods, because it seems like Lynwood and Compton really kind of have like a rocky relationship, you know, within those neighborhoods. But yeah, the Lynwood Tiny Locals is a gang that you definitely be hearing about, and they be representing, and they be no chumps, homie. So they definitely be putting their barrio up on the map. You feel me? But that's what's up with the Lynwood Tiny Locals gang right there, holding it down. Shout out to Mousy, shout out to Shy Boy from the Tiny Lokes, and shout out to all the homies from Tiny Locals that be right there representing it and holding it down for their side. You feel me? Now here we have roughly one of the more smaller sets out of Lynwood, which is the Lynwood Barrio El Segundo. Now Lynwood Barrio El Segundo is right here, located in Lynwood. You know what I mean? Like I said, they're roughly one of the more smaller neighborhoods, but nonetheless, homie, you know they're a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? They've been around already right here since the early '80s. They're almost by State Street, so by Madison, by Garden View, by Kansas, by Missouri, Ohio, by all those back ends is what's considered the El Segundo's neighborhood. You feel me? It's roughly a small chunk of territory, but nonetheless, homie, they have that on lockdown, homie. You know what I mean? You know, going at it with the surrounding neighborhoods, you know, including black neighborhoods, because there's a lot of like Crip sets, Blood sets, like around that area, and but the Barrio El Segundo, homie, ain't no joke, dog. You know what I mean? They definitely be right there representing for their neighborhood. You know what I mean? Going at it right there. You know what I mean? Because it be getting popping in there. You know, the area is, you know, does have a lot of activity, you know, within its borders. And but like I said, the El Segundo neighborhood has been holding it down already right here, and will continue to do so, and putting their barrio up on the map. Shout out to the homie Chino from Barrio El Segundo, and shout out to all the homies from El Segundo that be holding it down right there for the Lynwood area and for their barrio. You feel me? Now another one of the larger neighborhoods that you hear about in Lynwood is the Barrio Banning Street. Now this neighborhood is one of the largest out of the Lynwood area. Already have been right here since the late 70s, early 80s is when this neighborhood was established. Like I said, one of the more larger ones. And one of the ones that you definitely hear about. And one of the ones that seems to have a lot of enemies. Because it really does seem like no one in Lynwood likes these guys. It seems like they be going at it with everybody. But it's alright, because, you know, they have their numbers and they have the riders to be holding it down right there for their side. You feel me? These guys ain't no chumps, ain't no pushovers. Even though they don't have a large chunk in territory, because they're right there on Banning and Peach. Through those back ends is what's considered their neighborhood. They do have a gang of members, and they do hold it down, homie. They definitely have the riders. I know, you know, this neighborhood tends to get a lot of hatred, and so in the comments you probably will see a lot of people saying otherwise. But that's only because these guys are active and they keep doing their thing, homie, and be representing. You know what I mean? You know, like I have always said, you're not disliked like that for no reason, you know, for not doing nothing. It's because you be getting out on and cracking. You know what I'm saying? But that's just what it is. This neighborhood is with the business, be representing, you know what I mean? So if you think you could just come over here and it be like nothing, I mean, you got another thing coming to you. I mean, these guys will knock your head off your shoulders, you know. They definitely have their riders, you know what I'm saying? That be holding it down right there. You see the activity, graffiti and everything. They still be active and be right there representing for their barrio right there, homie. But that's what's up with the Banny street neighborhood right there, and holding it down for theirs and putting their barrio up on the map. Another neighborhood that you have right here in the city of Lynwood is the barrio Santa Fe Locals. Now, Santa Fe Locals has no connection to the barrio Santa Fe that's in Santa Fe, where the Swami's at. This neighborhood is named after the Santa Fe Avenue, so that's why they're known as Lynwood Barrio Santa Fe Locals, because their neighborhood is located where Santa Fe Avenue's at. So what's Santa Fe Avenue and 110th, 111, Norton, through those back ends is their neighborhood. They have a pretty, large chunk and size of territory, you feel me? And this neighborhood has been here since the 80s, you feel me? So they're not as old school as some of these other neighborhoods around in the city of Lynwood, but nonetheless, homie, they do their thing. You feel me? They have always been a more of the smaller gangs in Lynwood, but you do see them up. They do keep it active. You do see the activity, the graffiti, and all of that. So they be doing their thing. Going at it with a few neighborhoods over there. You see the graffiti battles. You know what I mean? They got their hood all mobbed up. But yeah, the Santa Fe Locals right here definitely is a neighborhood that you see up and that be representing it and putting it on the map for their side right there. And now here's another neighborhood that I roughly couldn't get a hold of anybody from this neighborhood. It was shot. The pictures were just shot by somebody that lives in the area, which is known as the Southside Lynwood 13 Gangsters or Southside Lynwood Gangster. So it's like Southside Lynwood 13, because I know that Lynwood 13 used to be what Lynwood Dukes is, you know what I mean? But I guess now these guys write it like that. But, very, vague information on this neighborhood, but, decided to put them on here because if, they are a hood or whatever, well, that's who they are, and, that's, where they be doing their thing in the city of Lynwood,